how did you handle that duality between having a real personal relationship with the Kennedys and having a relationship with the NOI?
Because I think that, in my opinion,
Mhm.
that the Nation of Islam, as it was then, not the current Nation of Islam. I mean, I had great respect for Wallace and so forth,
Mhm.
but Farrakhan, I don't have respect for.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
But
Okay.
the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Islam, as I recall it, was a force for good
Mm.
and not for bad. And even though some of their views could be looked at as being far out, uh, they were not a danger to the United States.
Mm. What do you mean by not a danger?
They
Because the
were
government,
not
that's what I'm
looking
saying.
to overthrow the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking to establish dignity and self-respect in the Black community.
Okay. Now,
And that made them really, to my mind, a force for good.
did you ever did you visit Harlem a lot during that time?
Yeah, sure.
Talk about the energy as it relates to Harlem and the NOI, and can you give me a visual? I was born in Harlem, but just from your perspective.
Harlem at that point was a very open kind of place. I mean, it was not unusual for white people to go there to have a meal, to participate in some communal life. There wasn't the bitterness and the racial division that occurred afterwards.
Mm.
It was an open kind of place where I never ever had, in those days, any kind of concern for my safety or anything going there and meeting people there. It just, you just didn't at that point.
Mm.
It was different.
Okay. Now, with the Nation of Islam being in Harlem and Elijah Muhammad being in Chicago, how did you have to report monthly, bi-weekly, semi-annual to Elijah Muhammad as it relates to promoting?
I never reported to Elijah Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I did was through Herbert and John, and they either reported or didn't report or whatever. But it was a real business relationship with Herbert and John. We talked a few times a day.
Okay. Now you
At
said
least.
Now this is gonna get interesting. Now you said you had no respect for Louis Farrakhan. So obviously you knew Louis Farrakhan as a young man. Talk about the
You're a
ascent.
young man. He played in a band,
Uh-huh.
in the Nation of Islam band. He was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like an all right guy. And then when he broke away and formed this group, which he called the Nation of Islam,
Mm-hmm.
I lost all respect for him because, the virulent anti-Semitism that he adopted,
Mm-hmm.
that had not been part of Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam people that I knew when I was involved with them.
Mm-hmm.
One thing they weren't was anti-Semitic.
Well, you were
There
working with them.
began to be a lot of about whiteness, that type of dialogue. But even then, they weren't. I didn't sense any type of real serious racial animosity.
Did you? What was the last conversation you had with Louis Farrakhan, or if you've had any?
I really hadn't since he was a kid, a young guy. I know I talked to him, and he was sort of charming guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't talked to him in about 40 years, I'm sure.
Now, the week before Malcolm was assassinated, his home was bombed, and they said that Farrakhan had ties to that. Obviously, the assassination as well. Some people say he may have had ties to that. Obviously, you said what you said about the assassination, but about the bombing of
I have
Malcolm
no
Top.
idea. Again, I wasn't involved with them then, but again, Farrakhan was a loyalist, amoral to Elijah. I think Farrakhan was related to Elijah, and if he had any role in the bombing, which was the first time hearing about it, it wouldn't surprise me because I really believe that Malcolm was assassinated as part of a dispute that he was having with Elijah and Elijah's people. I believe that. But again, I wasn't around then. So, again, this is something I sort of felt afterwards.
How many fights you promoted with Ali?
25 or 26, something like that.
What was the last one so I can get the historical perspective?
The last one was I promoted both of the Ali Spinks fights. So the last one was in New Orleans in September of 78. And he retired, as he agreed with me that he would do. And then he came back a couple of years later to fight Larry Holmes. And he had another fight which he shouldn't have taken. And but again, when he lost to Spinks the first time, I agreed to promote a second fight against Spinks, provided Ali would retire, which he agreed to do, and then changed his mind 3 years later.
So you had him from the second Sonny Liston fight to the Larry Holmes fight?
No. From not the second. There was one other fight where he fought Floyd Patterson in Las Vegas. I had him from that fight on until 74, and then King did the one in
Rumble in the Jungle, Thrill in Manila,
and some other fights, and then I started promoting him again with the Richard Dunn fight, and I did all 3 of the Norton fights. One was in 76, and Ali, both Ali Spinks fights. But in the interim, after 74, King did a number of the Ali fights as well.
Do you believe it was the boxing, or was his DNA or genetics that created the Parkinson's?
I think it was the genetics aggravated by the boxing, because everybody, males in Ali's family, his father, his brother, all had, to one degree or another, Parkinson's.
What's some of your fondest memories of Ali?
I mean,
two. Just give us 2. I know that
there was so many. I mean, he had a great influence on my life, and he was a spectacular human being and very perspicacious. And, but I'm talked out, man. I'm talked out. So let's see if we can just get this thing wrapped up.
Okay. Well, you gave us an hour, Bob.
I want to go ahead and
I appreciate you, Bob, man. I'm going to come back next month. I'm going to call you again. We got to go through it again. I got a lot of stuff. You should see my notes on this damn interview. I appreciate you, Bob.
Right. All right. Good talking to you.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate you. So that's Bob Arum, man. We're going to come back and do a part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6. You know what I mean? I kind of want to get these historical perspective, but I appreciate y'all, man. Don't forget, we go live every night during quarantine, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We go live. And don't forget to join the Patreon and click the link in the description box. And feel free to DM me. Okay. Any people else that you feel you want to invite into the barbershop, we're going to get it popping. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget, we going live tonight, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We got Olden Polonies who was a part of the trade that changed the NBA forever. You know, he was traded draft day for Scottie Pippen. And Scottie Pippen, in turn, played for the Chicago Bulls. And Olden Polynice went to Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. So, anyways, Barbershop, don't forget The Last Dance tonight, 6 p.m. So, we're locked and loaded tonight with Full. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.